Get your stinking rat out. It's late night large.
Hello, good evening, welcome to another edition of Lockdown Large Extra Time. Tonight's theme, straight into it, will be what I describe as the England goalkeeper curse. I've noticed in recent years there seems to be a recurring case where a candidate establishes themselves as England number one, and then for whatever reason, once they reach the pinnacle, so to speak, their whole career seems to just start falling to pieces, and they're on a inexorable decline. Discussing this with me will be obviously Mike, and we're going to start the 20-minute timer around about now. Yeah, here we go. So, Mike.
Yeah, people's careers will generally decline after reaching the pinnacle. They don't stay there forever.
Yeah, very good, Mike. Well, instead of just being a smart ass,
it's kind of my thing.
But Mike, what you said is bollocks anyway, because you just said it in the very obviously if you describe something in hindsight as a pinnacle, yes, of course. But what we're talking about is what is the pinnacle? What is the pinnacle they can reach? You know, for some goalkeepers, it's I played for England in a tournament or two, therefore that's my entire career achievements. Great. Others, it's like no, that's not good enough. I want to be the best keeper in Europe. Then I want to prove myself as the best keeper maybe in the world. So anyway, that's where we start. Mike, just to give
not have many of them.
No, just to give it a little bit of context. I know it's a bit before your time, some of these, but when I was growing up, it was always like we'd just come out of Shilton for England, and then it went on to basically Seaman. I know there were other candidates, but those two were they established themselves very quickly as the unimpeachable number ones. So the two S's. Now, in my personal opinion, Peter Shilton, I think, played on probably at least 4 years for England too long, mainly out of nostalgia. So, you know, his career ended up being about 20 years. I don't know how long for England, but some could argue he should have been pushed aside after his terrible game against Maradona in '86, but that's another story. So this is aside from the natural declining of, you know, when you get to a certain age. So as we discussed, Shilton didn't have a good tournament in 1990. David Seaman was slightly ropey at the 2002 World Cup, culminating, of course, in Ronaldinho's free kick. But what I mean is, sorry to bring back bad memories, but what I mean is leading up to that, Mike, both of them, the biggest thing you could say of them is you never imagined a Rick was coming. They were both very steady, very consistent, Mr. Reliable. Would you agree?
That's fair. I think that's fair, yeah. And I get where you're going with this already.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very fair.
Okay.
Very fair.
I'm glad we're on the same page. So Shilton and then Seaman basically saw us all the way through from effectively all the 80s and the 90s. So we get to the start of the millennium, and obviously Seaman starts getting a bit creaky, and we need to start looking for some replacements. Sadly for England fans at the time, the most obvious replacement was a man renowned for calamities, of course, Calamity James. Now, I remember being very passionate about not allowing David James anywhere near the England shirt for obvious reasons. He did effectively replace Seaman. The thing is, David James, maybe we'll have another show where we specifically talk about Calamity James, but David James specifically, Mike, the thing with him that sets him apart from the other goalkeepers we're going to discuss is I don't think he ever made his name as a reliable goalkeeper. You know, so there was never a point in his career where you would say, oh, yeah, okay, I can see he's getting to the right level. Maybe we should pick him for England. Immediately when he emerged, he was making howler after howler. As we've discussed, I think, before, he's cost two separate teams cup finals with his own handling errors. So it was how he made his name. We know he was big. We know he had great agility. He should have had all the tools in his locker to be number one for years if he'd worked on his own, you know, flaws in his game. But that's another story. So
yeah, I mean, he did play for several big clubs, but then big clubs.
He played for Liverpool when they weren't really.
Yeah, okay, top flight
Yeah.
clubs then. I think that's more of an accurate way of putting it.
It wasn't a golden era for Liverpool, no. Right.
No.
Okay.
I just don't know.
Am I not being fair? Is that what
I'm really trying to
play devil's advocate.
I'm really trying to insinuate, that you're not being fair. It's, but he was a bit of a joke most of the time, wasn't he? Really. But in one thing I will say is, okay, what were the alternatives?
Yeah, no, that's. Oh, you're right there, Pete. You got the. That's not a.
Yeah, no, it's a little notification.
Okay, fair enough.
That's lovely. Thanks, up top.
An inopportune moment. So yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same page with David James. Do you know the biggest criticism I can make of David James is
shit?
Yeah, but I know the biggest issue I have with David James is he should have been so much of a pioneer. He was, I mean, for God's sake, I correct me if I'm wrong. He was England's first black goalkeeper. That is a big deal. That is a huge deal. As far as I'm aware, he was England's first black goalkeeper. Definitely their first undisputable number one black goalkeeper. And look at him. He was 6'5", big frame. He had fantastic agility. Literally, if he'd have worked on his concentration, his focus, his collection of crosses, whatever, he could.
Do you think he didn't?
No, I don't think he did. I think the proof's in the pudding, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't mean he didn't work on it. It just maybe he didn't have the ability to do.
Okay, no, that's a fair point. Maybe he didn't, which is sad. But I look at him similar to you see one or two other players. You know what I'm talking about. Early in their career, you see flashes and you think, oh wow, this guy is like he could reach. You're talking about maybe not Ronaldo, Messi levels, but he could get near the top. And then you just see them fall short and just think, did they look after themselves? Did they put extra time in on the coaching field? I know that's not for every player, but it annoyed me with David James because he had such a big platform to be that number one indisputable for England. Anyway, David James is not the main point of this. So I'm talking about other goalkeepers that kind of emerged after him and had a significant spell, what you would say is the undisputable number one for a period of time. And the argument I want to make, Mike, is
go on.
It seems to be a recurring theme where once a Premier League goalkeeper gets to a level where he is undisputed number one, i.e. he is playing all the qualifying matches when he's fit.
Yeah.
He goes as number one to tournaments, etc.
Yeah.
When they get to that period, they seem to relatively quickly, whether it's just hinges on one mistake or a series, after they lose their confidence as England goalkeeper, their career just seems to just plummet into an inexorable decline. Now, the cases I'm going to throw up to try and defend this, Paul Robinson is my first example. So he emerges, so here's his career trajectory. He emerges as, the big thing, new thing at Leeds. Everyone says, oh, yeah, this is like a goalkeeper on the rise. So he's at Leeds, and then I believe he kind of breaks into the England squad. Then he moves to Spurs, and he's on an upward trajectory. He's first choice for Spurs for a number of years, and then he becomes England number one, right? So he's in a club you'd say should be challenging for top 8, top 6 at the time. He's the England number one, undisputed. What more do you want? As far as I remember, I'm trying to think of World Cup 2006. Was he first choice for that, or was that David James still? I probably should have done a bit of research.
No, that was Robinson.
It was Robinson, wasn't it?
That was Robinson.
I can't remember him doing too bad or anything particularly.
Oh no, hang on. Was it James?
Yeah. See, I'm starting to picture David James in the kit.
I think it might be.
Could have been still David James. Maybe Robinson was between tournaments generally, because obviously we didn't qualify in 2008. Anyway, he was on off, and then he became undisputed number one around 2006, 2007. and he's playing, you know, at least year 18 months as number one. And then it wasn't like a complete cut-off, but that horrendous foul up against Croatia in the qualifiers where Gary Neville's back pass, bobble over his foot. And yeah, of course, you know, Robinson came out and said it's once in a million. It bounced literally as I was about to kick it. I remember watching that and thinking, like, an international goalkeeper shouldn't be like just thinking fuck this and swinging it like a pub player, particularly when it's rolling in the vicinity of the goal. I thought he should have been taking a touch anyway, but beside the point, he made the foul up. It wasn't the end of him at international level, but you could argue, so what that happened in 2007, by the end of 2008 he had been part of the Blackburn side that won the League Cup. But if you look at what happened after 2008, no, wait, was it Tottenham in 2008? Anyway, whoever he was with in 2008, he was then at Blackburn. So you could argue Blackburn is a step down from Tottenham, isn't it? And then from there, he basically declined in the sense that he never really challenged for England anymore. Everyone forgot about him. I don't think he was even talked about as a challenger for the England squad after he dropped out. And then from Blackburn, he gradually, I mean, they got relegated. He eventually ended up at Burnley, where all the kind of the graveyard for ex-England goalkeepers was. But he was pretty much forgotten about from that point. So that's my first one. And then obviously my second, which everyone will be aware, is obviously Joe Hart, which is the big one. So I'm trying to think.
Do you think though that it's difficult to say, isn't it? When sort of goalkeeper's been England goalkeeper for so long that it's that then has led to their decline.
No.
Joe Hart was England number one for a long time.
Yeah, correlation doesn't equal causation. What I'm saying is it seems to be a particular career trajectory for England's number one. This is what I'm saying. And the reason we're saying that these are so strange is because we're used to the Seaman model, which is play your entire career almost your entire career in the international side, and it's only the last couple of years where you're a bit like, oh, hang on, bit slow, a bit of a liability now. Literally, he played his entire career, and the peak years and beyond were England's number one, as was Shilton. So we get now. So you've got Paul Robinson. I'm trying to work out how old he was actually when he started fading out of the England picture, because we also have to remember what would you say is the peak years for a goalkeeper, Mike? Do you think career wise? It's normally what 27 to 29 for outfield players.
Yeah, no, goalkeeper 30, 32.
Yeah, I'd say maybe 32 to 34 or 35. That's probably a goalkeeper's peak years, you might say, yeah?
Yeah, I think they probably start to decline then, but
yeah. So
Paul, look at Gigi.
Yeah. So Paul Robinson, he didn't turn 30. He turned 30 in I think 2009. So he wasn't even 30 when he dropped out of the England reckoning, and then he never really got back to that level of form. So that's way before his peak should have come, really. That's what I'm saying. So that's number one. We're not mentioning goalkeepers who faded in and out really quickly, fly-by-nights who made cock-ups like Scott Carson and Robert Green. There's no point in talking about them. Do you remember who replaced Paul Robinson? Do you remember who was between?
Pretty sure that was Robert Green, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure
because he didn't earn that many caps. Who was 22?
There's not Rob Green, but then Joe Hart took over. A couple of others maybe had a couple of that.
Yeah. Well, I'd never say Robert Green was number one, undisputed.
No, but he was the only one that, if you're talking about that transition, I think, between...
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. Okay, so then Robert Green we can forget about. Then we go to Joe Hart, which is the big one. Now, Joe Hart, again, I'm going to look at how old he was. Mike, when do you think... Because, let's be fair, Joe Hart, he won the Golden Glove, I believe, I think a record number of times, like early on in his Manchester City career. He obviously won big trophies, the league. He was again, Golden Glove is most clean sheets in a season. So he was, by statistics, the best goalkeeper in the Premier League for a number of seasons. So no one can say that he got the England job just because there were no other good goalkeepers. He was a very good goalkeeper back in the day. And he seemed to get better and better. And then there came a time, people say, oh, he lost his confidence when Guardiola dropped him. But it's like, isn't that forgetting the point that he'd actually been in decline for quite a while by the time Guardiola dropped him? In fact, I don't know about you. Don't you? I remember that it was at least 2014, 2015 when people were saying that Joe Hart no longer merited his place. Maybe 2015, no longer merited his place in the England side because he was letting in goals you wouldn't expect a top-class keeper to let in at international level. Would that be fair? Am I remembering that right?
Ballpark, yeah.
Yeah, 2015, 2016, and then obviously we're looking at the Iceland game particularly was just a horror show. It was that thing, wasn't it? He started getting that one thing, like his kryptonite, where he couldn't stand shots that were low down to his left, wasn't it? It started to almost become a meme, the amount of goals he would concede down low to his left.
I think meme is the thing then, but yeah.
Well, when I say down low to his left, I mean as in he'd dive for them and he would never be able to keep them out. He'd always get like a finger or a hand to it and it would go in.
Yeah.
Chocolate wrist. Yeah. But the interesting thing about that, Mike, is when they say that, it's almost like people think, oh, we should have just got in the gym to build his wrist strength up. And it's like, no, it's nothing to do with the strength of his wrist.
There are other ways.
There are other ways. You would know all about that, wouldn't you, Mike?
Tell you what, my fucking wrist, mate, second to none. So
I can definitely believe that. But aside from your disgusting habits, what I mean, Mike, is the wrist strength. I mean, that's a red herring. It's stupid. It's nothing to do with the wrist strength. It's because they're misjudging their dives. Because the idea is, your arm should be further across. That's how you get the strength in the save. So basically, he was misjudging his dives. He was getting down too slow, split second too slow every time. So that was a weird one. And then we got to the stage where he was, he got kicked out of the Man City team not long after the, being dropped from England after Euro 2016. Soon he was out of the City side, went to Torino, didn't rip up any sticks, went to Burnley. And even though I don't think he did too badly at Burnley, every time he came in the team, they seemed to concede goals. So the argument was he just didn't have a good relationship with their defence.
Burnley.
But Nick Pope and Tom Heaton were like challenging for England at the time. So you can't say that, it's only Burnley. They had a very good defensive record.
Yeah, okay.
And then he goes to Spurs and now, I don't know if you saw, did you see his Europa League performance this season?
No.
Fuck me, was that bad? I felt bad for him. It's like watching, one of the old, it's like watching, I don't know, Peter Shilton in his 50s attending a charity game and then he lets, easy shots squeak through him at his near post. And you think, oh, this is a sad way to watch such a great goalkeeper, just denigrate himself with this. So that's Joe Hart. And then we got Pickford again, who I know people talk about the T-Rex arms and whatever. Ironically, when we're recording this, he's just had the best game probably in 3 seasons that I can remember with a number of stunning saves against Liverpool. I thought he was on top form.
What a game to have it.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
If you're going to have the game of your life, or certainly recent times, do it against Liverpool by all means.
Yeah, and he obviously cropped Van Dijk early in the season, so he saved his best.
He's had a great year.
Yes, yeah.
He's had a great year for the neutral.
Well, Everton fans will love him, despite the fact he's been dire most of the season.
Fuck Everton fans. I've never liked him more.
All right. So, Mike, we've not got long left, but you get what I'm saying, because Pickford and Hart now seem to be on a decline well before their peak, as was Paul Robinson. Is there any connection here between maybe something mental that they get to be undisputed number one and they lose their edge? What do you think it is?
It's a theory, but I don't think that. I'm not sure there's enough So you say if you take the last 5, then
Yeah.
that we're talking like main, proper, like so, like keepers. So from Shilton,
Yeah.
Seaman,
Yeah.
James,
Yeah. Robinson.
then Hart, then Pickford.
Yeah.
How many's that?
Well, I think that's 6, isn't it?
Oh, fucking 6 then.
Right, quick round it up.
Okay, how many of them were? It's only about half, really. Oh no, it's 4, isn't it? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's too much, or maybe they just can't handle the stage. And England, when it goes sour for England, that it all topples and their club form then declines. Maybe you're right. I think that to say there's a curse might be a bit harsh, or unnecessarily off-putting for young keepers coming through, because it could very well just be the goalkeepers themselves, rather than. I don't think there's a real curse, is there? Or is there?
Well, yeah, that's what I was
Who
driving.
fucking cursed us?
Who fucking
That's what I want to know.
it would be interesting though, wouldn't it? Glenn Hoddle when he lost his job. Okay, so no, fair enough. So, basically, the proof will be in the pudding, won't it? So, just to end on this thought, can Jordan Pickford recover? Basically, if Pickford picks his career up, wins the FA Cup with Everton, gets his form back, and performs okay for England, I'll say, yeah, fine. You know, Robinson and
James.
Hart. No, not James. Robinson and Hart were outliers. We'll say that. But if Pickford continues on this trajectory, then it's a pattern, and we need to think what the hell is going on here. At least,
and then
sorry.
What I would say, just quickly, then obviously we've run out of time. What I would say is, would you want Henderson to take over then?
Well, yeah, this is my point. I'm a bit worried. Because, right now you could argue we've got more goalkeeping talent than we've had in many years. You got Dean Henderson, you got Nick Pope, Tom Heaton if he recovers, and then obviously Pickford is hoping to be amongst it. Not so certain, and then people might argue Ramsdale. I don't know about that, but. So at least we've got some competition. But the thing is, again, it's consistency, isn't it? It's reliability. It's not about, oh my God, did you see the great saves they made last week? It's about, did you see any mistakes they made last season? No? Oh, fucking hell, they're reliable then.
That's what.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll end on that note. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we will catch you next week with some more Lockdown Large Extra Time.